So, I'm Austin Cliffe. This is John Prendergast, another pawpaw grower from the area, and today we're going to do a little grafting, and he was asking about some of my methods, so I'm going to show him what I know. But first we'll talk some materials here. Alright, so I've got some rubbing alcohol and cotton to clean off my blades with. This is kind of an odd selection, but it's when Village Commons bookstore was closing down, I got a bunch of cheap art scalpel blades that happen to fit in these X-Acto knife handles. And this is what I use, but I've also used utility, just a fresh utility blade. Now, people have grafting knives like this, and that's all well and good. Well, this one's not even flat on one side, but that's fairly common. But you got to sharpen these, and I don't know, I kind of like to just have a fresh blade.
Yeah, you can't beat a new blade.
So we're going to demonstrate on this guy, and then I guess we'll talk about what else we got in here. So
and you just look at the weather to see what and when you get like in the 60s at night, or what are you looking for?
Well, I think it's more about like the 80-degree days. You don't want it really cold, and also like lack of rain. So you want gentle, sunny, warm weather that's not going to, be pouring on it or blowing it around a whole lot. And when the plant's actively growing and the bark is slipping, which is another sign, and we'll kind of see that probably most on the last graft that I'll demonstrate, which is a Cliff England graft. He's got videos on that as well, and that's where I learned is on YouTube. So this is scion wood that I collected in, I think, March. I don't know if I didn't date the bag, but these are from, this is from a tree in Michigan. So hopefully the wood is still good. We'll see. You can see that there's flower buds on this. Looks like they had begun to swell a bit. So, and this might be leafing out already.
You got an apical.
Yeah, so it's green in there still, which is a good sign. I didn't dip these in wax or anything, but what I'm doing right now is I'm removing the flower buds, because we don't want those. We just want the leaves. Otherwise, it's putting its energy into flower buds, which, if it sets fruit, it's going to disturb the graft, and we just don't want that. So if you look closely at this, hopefully you can see there's a line here, and this is all new growth from last year that became woody. Right now, it looks like this green part.
Yes.
So what we're after is only wood from last year's growth. We don't want the union to be here.
Right.
We want just last year's growth. So we're going to cut this, and then we're kind of going to cut the rootstock to sort of match it, and then wrap it up with a rubber band, and and then a little bit of parafilm, and we'll see what we get. So I'm going to set that down, get my blade ready, and then let's talk a little bit about what we're going to be wrapping with and get that ready as well. So I have these rubber bands, which I believe are 3. I'll give you a handful of these for you to experiment with. But these were cut down because I ordered, I think, 3/8, and this, what I wanted is 3/16. So I'll show you how to cut those down if you make the same mistake as me, but this is a grafting rubber that I ordered online. But I'm able to make 4 pieces out of this that I would use for a pawpaw versus, like, I don't know what this is for exactly, maybe grapevine grafting or something like that. But the material, it's powdered, it's allegedly biodegradable. I don't know. I think you kind of have to watch that your grafts don't get constricted by your rubber band, which will be clear in a moment how that goes on. But you may want to remove your rubber band at some point rather than rely on it biodegrading over time. But I think it also has to do with here, let me get that out of your way. It also has to do with
Perfect.
what does it have to do with? I lost my train of thought here. So yeah, not choking off the graft, basically. I think there's something with the tension of the rubber band being just enough to hold it in place firmly, but not also choke it. And that's sort of a, I don't know, that's probably something that just comes with time. Because you want it to stay on there firmly, but as it grows, you don't want it to be girdled.
So you're going to put this graft on the top?
Yep, so this seedling here is from our dearly departed friend John Maxon's property in West Virginia. Forgive me for not remembering exactly where, but it was from the biggest and tastiest fruit that he had, but pawpaws are not true to seed. So who knows what fruit quality this tree will have. We don't know. I was willing to gamble and hope that it's going to be something good, but and it may end up being the fact that the rootstock survives and the graft dies, because there's no guarantees in life. But I think it's really good to start with a quality seed, and then if you end up with a seedling tree, at least you have some likelihood that it'll be good. But who's to say?
Good to graft.
Yeah. Tasty fruit quality is what we're after. So here's the fresh one that I decided not to keep holding in my mouth unsafely.
Good.
And then I've got my rubbing alcohol. This is to take the oil off, partly, but also sterilize, whatever. You can get a few uses off of each blade, I figure, but they say it's good practice not to go from tree to tree with the same blade, so you're not spreading disease or whatever.
So this green I see is all this year's growth.
Correct.
And I don't see another one from last year.
Because it's just the leader, and then these popped out. So we don't, it's not so much a concern that we match up. Like, we're gonna cut all this off.
Okay.
And then like into here basically, and then join the,
try to match diameters.
Exactly. So what we'll do is cut the piece first, and then kind of figure out where it'll fit nicely, and then make the matching cut. So this one we're going to start with is the Splice Graft, which is like the simplest you can get. So, and I've had luck with this one. It's basically like Whip and Tongue, but without the extra cut. So you're just making like an angled cut, and you're pulling towards yourself, not pulling the blade to your thumb, but keeping your thumb as a support and moving your arm all in one go to make the cut. So and you're after a flat slanted cut that's wide, and then we may clean up the cut. And you're also you're gonna choose opposite a bud and cut like so that it's the long side is on the bud side. Because we're going to then try to match it up in a similar fashion to where, so this bud will be placed approximately where another bud is once we wrap it up. This will be clearer in a minute. So we only want a few, like
2?
Yeah, I'm going to go with 3 because you can always go shorter. You know, there's some people might go a little longer. It depends on kind of the diameter that you can make the cut, but you only need a few. I'm gonna go here. Let's see if I can kind of hold it in a way that's clear for everybody here, and just kind of all in one go. And it almost helps to pull, like, you know, it's not very wide. Forgive me, I haven't practiced in a while. This is my first go. I should add that the date is May 21st here in Northern Illinois. So I'm just kind of widening the cut, trying to do it all in one cut. That's not bad, but it's not flat either. Let's see if we can kind of shave it. That's not terrible. It's not great, but
I'll hang on to this for you, because you're probably going to need 2 hands to make the next.
Here, I'll show you what I do.
Oh, okay. Keep it moist.
This is, and it's also, your mouth is sterile enough that you're not going to be putting it in dirt or whatever. This is from Ron Powell, I believe, that told me to do this. So now,
How's it taste?
there's a slight, like, pepperiness to it, but not really anything.
Okay.
So now, we've got, I think I'm going to put it, like, right here. So, because I want to say, well, what we'll do is we'll look.
Here's the
Yep.
rest of the other piece.
There you go. So pretty similar in diameter, and
Yeah.
you can take the, so what we're going to do is try to make it, honestly, we don't even need this part. I know this seems painful, but we're going to be pulling all this
I'll
stuff
try
out.
to get over it.
Yeah. You have to be kind of ruthless with this stuff, but we're basically doing surgery. So I think we're going to try to make the cut so that, there, that makes maybe more sense, doesn't it? You can see where the old bud is. We're going to try to put the new bud about there and make the cut so it aligns. So we want our cut to start right around here. That looks nice. The bark looks like it's slipping right now. And what that means is it's kind of loose from the interior. And we'll talk about that more in a little while. Not a terrible match, but not a great one either. So when you come to this juncture, I mean, we're looking at the matchup here. This is not great. In fact, I think it's a little fat compared to this one. Maybe I should have cut further down, but there's a couple of different ways to go about this. We could try to make this a whip and tongue. I think this might be time for the Cliffe England Modified Bark Graft. So we started trying to make a splice graft, but it didn't work. Okay, so we're going to try a slightly different method, and I may screw this up completely. We'll just see what happens.
Got enough trees here.
Exactly. And I mean, if it doesn't work, I can leave this intact, and this will like be the next central leader, whatever. And I'm also going to graft this one. And if this one takes, maybe this one we cut. And now this is the new leader but I would prefer to get rid of that one if it comes to it. So we're switching gears here. This is weird, but this is how this one goes. And this one's the trickiest one in terms of, I would say, skill. This is the one I've cut myself the most on. So we're cutting off what we did. And the reason I'm doing this is that there's kind of a difference in diameter now. And actually, we're going to go further down with this, but just bear with me here. This is going to be a wedge cut now. Okay, so I should add, without my mouth full, that England's nursery are the people, Cliffe England specifically, who originated this graft, as far as I know. So now we're gonna do something a little different. We're going the next bud down. We're gonna cut it off here, and then cut down the middle, pull a flap of bark down, cut out the heartwood, and then tape it all back up. And this is sort of a good thing. This might come in handy for you when you have like a mismatch in terms of if you want to convert a branch and you have a wider diameter branch and a smaller diameter scion. This sort of makes up for that size differential. So okay. So pawpaws have alternating buds, so we know that the bud's going to go here now. Even if we forgot the side, we know that it's going to be opposite the next one down. So this is the most dangerous cut that I'm going to make. I did this when I was at a bar with friends, nonchalantly on a seedling, sliced right into my hand and bled all over the place in public. Terrible idea.
Maybe don't do it in bars.
Yeah, I know. Well, it was outside at least.
Oh.
But clearly, yeah, be safe about this stuff. Don't be a dum-dum like me. So what I'm going to do, and what I is cut straight down, perpendicular to the buds, basically. But what I did, that was my mistake, other than doing this while drinking, is I just slid with this next cut that I'm going to make right into this hand.
Ew.
This is a very sharp blade, and once you get this cut started, you're pressing and it's just going to want to go. So you want to carefully rock back and forth while bracing your fingers together, preventing your blade from sliding into the meat of your hand. Uh-oh. Some complaints from the peanut gallery here. So, easy does it. We got to be about there. Slow and steady wins the race. All right, a little more.
There's a noisy cat.
So now our size is about right. Our next cut, well, we're going to do this a couple different ways. Here's how the bark's slipping. See how that just flaps right off of there?
I do.
That's a good sign.
I was wondering how you're going to get that meat out of there.
So now we want to get this out of the way, and we're going to make a cut that's angled. Again, bracing, going slow. Now we got a little notch that this sits in, right? Everybody see that? Good so far?
Mm-hmm.
So here's the next cut. This is the tricky one. Not so much dangerous, but just hard to get right without leaving stuff behind. And that was a bad cut, but not terrible. So it's angled. What we're trying to do is match this. It actually looks pretty great. I'm going to just go down a little slightly more. So this sits in here like this. The alignment seems pretty good. This flap is just going to come and sit right on that other angled part, so we don't need a ton of it. And kind of trim it off. Okay. I think I don't need my blade anymore, but I need a rubber band. So here is a secret. Don't trim your left, or if you're left-handed, don't trim your right thumbnail, because that's what's going to be what holds your rubber band. So at this point we can get rid of these little excess leaves, and we're going to strip this guy all to the base, so we're trying to focus that energy into this. We put this in here. I've made a slight miscut in there, but should be okay. Oops, and shoot, pressing down, I opened the cut further. But we're just going to try to get our, and what we're trying to align is that outer cambium layer, which is that green part. So we want green to meet green and have as much green touching green as possible. And so you kind of, everybody see that? That's how you can get it started. I'm just holding it in place with my thumbnail.
Okay.
So, not too much tension on the rubber band, but enough that it just holds itself in place. And then you keep wrapping, preserving alignment and kind of covering the last layer up as you go. Now, this is a little, I think I might need a slightly longer rubber band.
Is this longer?
It is not.
I got the bag here.
Okay. About the same, but I've got more width on this one, so we'll see. And maybe I didn't need to start so low. Okay. Once again, pinch it with the thumbnail and just keep that tension as you wrap. And you can see my forefingers are kind of dancing around to keep that rubber band flat on my right hand. I'm kind of just pulling the tension and then and keeping it flat. And then as you get to this sort of end spot here, you can kind of just pinch it with that thumbnail and pull it over. And you can kind of pull on that tail to cinch it up. And then we can cut that later, but honestly, that's fine.
No more rubber bands?
No more rubber bands. So, I have another product now. This is called parafilm. Now, some people get this in a sheet form, but it's basically a wax tape that stretches. It's waterproof, but since it's thin and will stretch, it allows buds to just press through it.
Oh.
So it'll keep the water out of the graft, and it'll allow the buds to emerge as they swell.
And
So-
eventually fall off.
Right. So this is probably too much, but we're just going to do it anyway. And then you can always get rid of the excess. But again, you're kind of maintaining a little bit of,
Overlap?
yeah, overlap, but also like pressure to keep it like tight. But also try not to stress the graft union too much. And the tape will sort of stick to itself. Oops. But that's not a problem there. I'll just keep wrapping over it. Now, my scion looks like it's come out of dormancy slightly, which is worrisome, but maybe not problematic.
So you had it in the refrigerator?
I did, but I think I might have gotten to it slightly too, we might have collected slightly late. I'm just gonna put another little wrap on top to kind of seal it up there. That's it. That is Cliff England's Modified Bark Flap Graft. We'll see if it's successful. It was my first attempt after quite some time of not grafting, so let's see if we can do a simpler one and maybe have some success over here. So the other thing is you'll just be like, this feels brutal to do, but just peeling off any growth below the graft and trying to send that energy into the fresh scion. See what happens. Okay, so that's one of the two leaders on this, which you want to trim a pawpaw basically to a central leader. But since we've got this other side branch, I don't know, I'm a little nervous because this is like a narrow crotch kind of here. It's not so bad. The bark isn't super included, and if this was
If
to
that
get
one
trimmed
don't make
off,
it, you'll
yeah,
if that one
exactly.
don't make it, you'll be happy.
So there's like some other stuff. This one is probably in its like, what, third or fourth year of growth. I think this is a good time to do it, but we'll see. All right, so we're gonna try another one.
I think mine were
Same.
about that big when I got them. I got my tree from Gurnee.
Gurnee, huh?
And they
Illinois, or is that a...
said,
Seacom.
a seed cup. It's a
Oh, okay.
nursery.
Got it.
And when I got it, I also planted a peach tree, and the peach tree's gone. The peach tree is in its last year, I think.
Wow. That peach tree, I just saw the peach tree. That looked really elderly.
It is.
Wow. The pawpaw didn't.
Well, it's native.
Yeah. Interesting.
So I'm just kind of looking at the diameters here to think about things a little bit.
No.
They say about 3 or
no
4
calipers
buds,
involved, huh?
just by eye. People have talked about using like grafting machines for pawpaws, but it's significantly smaller diameter than apple scion wood. Just for reference, I mean, these are centimeters, so that's about a 1/2 centimeter diameter. You can get thicker scion, but not by much. Okay, so simple splice graft. 1, 2, 3, 4 pawpaw buds. It's probably enough. I could maybe go for 5, but I'm not gonna. I'm gonna just try it. What I will do though is cut further down towards this bud. That's a long cut and kind of off center, but I can clean it up. Trying to make the cut in one go. Making hash of this. Let's try a little slower. I'm gonna widen the side of the cut slightly. I think I'm slightly off. Just going for like a thin shave all the way across, but kind of screwing it up.
My problem when I did this graft was I would gouge downward, so it was almost, it wasn't straight. It was like a little
cup?
indentation. Yeah, it was more cup-like, and then it wouldn't match up.
Hi. I'm watching Austin do a pawpaw graft at his house. Yeah. Yes. I'll do that. Bye. That was dynamite.
Oh, just talking about her.
Okay, so I took that time to trim the lower growth. We're gonna size up our diameter again. I was thinking, since this had such active growth here, I might try to go about there, I guess, as the spot to replace it. Similar diameter. So what I'll do is maybe go a little, I'll go a little high and then kind of trim down like I did. The diameter seems thinner the further you go between the buds.
That looks like a good
Not
match.
too bad. I'm gonna widen the, or lengthen, I guess, the cut ever so slightly. Because you want exact match, as best you can do with this graft. About the same. That's pretty close, but this is sort of shaped funny. I'm just going to widen this side a little bit. Trying to thin that end slightly and see how the alignment looks. My cuts aren't perfectly flat, but they seem to align pretty well. Okay, so this is just a simple splice graft.
And what did you call the first one you did?
That was a modified bark flap graft, I believe. And if I have the name wrong, I will put it the correct one in as a subtitle in the video. But I believe that's what it is. And Cliffe England has a video demonstrating it. Okay. Well, it doesn't look perfectly flat, but those should pull together pretty nicely. The rubber band helps kind of pull that everything together, as Larry Sibley would say, like a cut finger with a band-aid, you know. So with this one, you can kind of like check your alignment, get it just so, and then slide your rubber band into position and your scion, and keep that tension with the nail. And then just go over the top. And this, I mean, that nail might be as crucial a grafting tool, I feel like, as any of the other items I've described. It really does. It's the only way I can seem to get that and keep your finger on it as you wrap. Just keep it together. But I gotta say, the fingernail really does help keep that tension on. And you can kind of roll it a little bit if you need to get that little flap under. And that one, thank you. That one's a little flappy. So I'm going to cut that off. There we go. Okay. So that was a splice graft, and then a whip in tongue, or whip. I believe it's whip and tongue, but I would have to double check that. Is basically making a splice graft, but with 2 additional cuts, one in the scion and one in the rootstock, to kind of make a lightning bolt shaped cut that will heal together. And what's nice about that one is you get more exposure between, or surface area exposure in that cambium layer. But I've had success with the splice graft, and it's the simplest cut to make.
It looks like you got a lot of contact between the...
Yeah, I think so. Now, it wasn't perfect because I could see a little bit of green when I was, you know, putting them together. But, you know, I don't exactly know what makes the difference in a successful graft versus an unsuccessful graft. I think timing is a part of it, cleanliness, sharp tools, but I think there's a certain amount of luck involved too.
The tool I had gave you a graft like the one you did first,
Okay.
and it was a tool
Okay.
instead of doing it.
Yeah, it
And
sort of made like a U-shaped cut and the matching cut, right?
Yeah, but it didn't.
Now that was
wasn't successful. I also
that was for
tried
a peach or
peach.
pawpaw.
It was peach.
Okay.
I've never done anything with the pawpaw.
I've never grafted anything but pawpaw. We did a class on grafting apples, at which I was unsuccessful, but that was before I ever did any pawpaw grafting, I think. So,
I saw
can't
a guy
really
graft
comment.
with his fingernail like you. He would make us in the apple at the bud, and he would take the other bud and break it off and just slide it in there, and then
okay,
put I think he had masking tape.
okay.
But
I want
that's
to say
his tool was his thumbnail.
just his thumbnail, huh?
Yeah.
It's crucial.
This
What
was
can I
apple.
say? That's like I want to say either like chip bud grafting or a T bud graft, I want to say, which I've seen people doing bud grafting with pawpaws. That's okay, just leave them alone. Oops. Because you don't want to disturb your grafts too much after the fact. Oops, he said, waggling them around. But they'll be okay, I think. We'll see. Only time will tell. And I'm not too worried if this one ends up not taking, because I think the rootstock should be good. We'll see. We don't know. And there may still be growth from the rootstock that comes out, but
the cat won't get to him.
yeah, that's key. I was also thinking of maybe like draping this with some t-shirt material or something if we're expecting rain, to just keep the rain off. But I don't think we really are. I think we have a really nice forecast. Now I'll share a
I
screen
haven't
cap.
seen much.
Yeah, it looks pretty good for good. That's a weird pronunciation there, but good for grafting. I think today's like 75 is the high, tomorrow's 77, and then it's up in the 80s, and you want like 80s to 85s temps for like about a week after you graft. I think we're a little early for those temperatures, but you know, I'm going to be doing this, I think, over the next few days. Kind of, you know, do a few in the morning and then kind of spread it out throughout that range a little bit and see if that has any luck, you know, anything to do with my luck, I guess. If warmer temps seem like a better take, but honestly, I think we'll be good. So let's do one more graft, and we'll do it on a seedling. And this will be the Whip and Tongue. Okay, so here we've got a seedling tree and a piece of scion. I kind of went for one that has a similar diameter. So we're going to do this is going to be the Whip and Tongue Graft. So make our first cut similar to the Splice Graft. But I left an extra bud on there, so I'm going to have to keep kind of shaving away till that. Okay, that's a little bit of a narrow cut though. Let's try like that. We'll see if this works, but okay.
That's a tiny little bit.
Mm-hmm. So we're looking for our matchup. I think I'm gonna go for just below where all the branches are. So this bud will basically be where that branch is. Not too bad, but kind of long. So I'm gonna narrow the cut. Not too shabby. So now we're making basically a cut in the scion like this, and then a matching cut so there will be a split and a split, and it'll just kind of slide into it, and then it'll all pinch together.
Tongue in cheek, tongue and
Tongue
whip.
in cheek, yeah.
Tongue and whip.
Tongue and whip, yeah. This might be a tongue in cheek graft, we'll see. Okay, so I think what you're aiming for when you're making this next cut is, you see there's that inner wood, and then there's that like green area in the middle. I think you want to basically start the cut approximately there, where you're in the middle of this heartwood, let's say. I don't know if that's the actual term, but in the middle of that white area. So we're gonna
Sapwood, I think.
Sapwood, okay.
For the first 3 years.
Okay, so we're gonna kind of make a cut. And this, again, we're rocking back and forth because we don't want to slide and cut ourselves. Let the blade kind of do the work, because it's a nice sharp blade, but if you put pressure behind it, it'll start sliding. Okay, maybe a little bit more, but we just need enough that it'll kind of like be a nice notch that you can open and place in a matching cut. Now,
Don't peel the bark back though.
Nope, not on this one. I think I might make the cut just slightly deeper, just a little bit. Easy does it on this. So, okay, back in the mouth. Well, no, first we compare. So you have to kind of, this is a weird one. You have to imagine this sliding into place. So you have to kind of use this to gauge your cut. So this flap is going to go into here. So we're going to make another similar cut. And we're going for that kind of like right in this sort of neck of the woods, so that this will slide into place and match up. So you have to kind of use your imagination where that cut's going to be. I think about here. Once again, just a little wiggle. That looks pretty good. Let's see how they do. Can you see, John?
I can.
So we don't need our knife anymore. We put that down. The nice thing about this one is that it should just kind of stay in place. And what you don't want to do is mash these together a lot and fray your cuts. So, oops, that's terrible light. Once again, this is a very difficult thing to film, I've found. So hopefully everybody can see. But you can kind of get that flap to just slide into the other one. Look at that. Not too shabby.
Want me to get your rubber band?
I think I got it.
Whoa, so it stays temporarily.
Yeah. But looks like my alignment's pretty good, and it should just kind of pull this all into place. And then I'm pinching once again with my thumbnail here just to get things started. And then maintain that overlap, light tension, fingers kind of, this is, I don't know even how to explain what I'm doing here, but you just kind of feel it after a while. That covers up the cut, and then there's enough that slack that we can kind of pull it out and tuck and grab. And then we'll wrap it with parafilm again, but that's it.
Oh, you don't go all the way to the top.
Nope, the parafilm will take that.
Oh, the paraffin is when you go to the top.
The other thing too is eventually, if this does take and start to bud out, you kind of got to watch that union there, because like I was talking about before, if you're too tight with that rubber band and it doesn't break away, it can kind of girdle it.
Yeah, and then a phloem and xylem can
right
do their job.
But conversely, you don't want to mess with it too much while it's healing, and take it away too early. So just kind of monitor your grafts and adjust accordingly, but the less intervention you have to do, the better. But sometimes things heal in a funny way, and you just got to make sure that you're not stressing it. So I'm by no means an expert in this either. This is probably like graft number, I don't know.
Well, you got some success.
100, yeah,
You
exactly.
got some success back there.
There's, yeah, I've got some success, but even a blind squirrel can find a nut. But I guess that's the point, is that people shouldn't be too timid to try this. The plants themselves are pretty resilient, and you know, people have done a lot of grafting with less modern materials than we have available now. Like Corwin Davis was using electrical tape and stuff, you know, like any which way you can, sort of, I think. And shout out to Chris Rice also. I want to say he's doing chip bud grafting with pawpaws, which I've heard can be difficult.
I thought that didn't work.
Yeah, I sort of did too. So maybe you gotta convince him to do a video or something. I don't know. Might have to go out and be a cameraman or something, because this is hard to shoot on your own, I gotta say. Like,
especially when you're distracted by wrens and start looking, and that's why we just had a little drift there.
Oh, a wren.
Sorry.
But this is the, I don't know, this is not the important part, but you do want it kind of sealed, and the parafilm will just sort of seal to itself. We'll see what happens. Just keeps the water off, basically. And you can keep your little scraps.
I never even knew that
parafilm
existed. I know paraffin.
Parafilm was something I first became aware of in high school biology class. We used it to cover test tubes full of fruit flies, but it came in like a sheet that you like
doing
peeled
genetic
open.
studies?
Yeah, looking at them under the microscope and counting red eyes versus white eyes and
Wrinkled wings.
yeah, all that sort of stuff. So, but that's where I first heard of it. So I guess probably any science supply store would have it, if not like, you know, grafting supply. I think that's where you bought this tape for me, didn't you? Did that come as a part of a set with the knife or something? Okay.
Nope. You can buy it on that retailer that starts with a big A online that sells everything, or your local supplier.
Gotcha.
Yes.
These are little foil tags that I got so you can mark your grafts, and they won't, you know, you can just use the end of a paintbrush or whatever, and they won't fade in the sun, so you forget. They'll last a few seasons. But this,
Never seen them.
This one is Albie R, and we'll affix that with a tag with a
Oh, I see. You're just depressing it.
Yep, but pretty legible, and that'll last several seasons. I mean, probably years.
Lasts forever.
Yeah, well, I mean, and what did I do with it now? There's a little
Piece of wire.
Yeah, did I drop it? Anyway, there's a wire, yeah, there it is, that goes on there. So this would probably be the first thing to fail, because this, I think, is
Depending
steel.
on the material. If it's-
Yeah. Well, I don't know. It could be aluminum.
They put a little nickel or
Yeah.
cobalt in and made it look kind of stainless.
Hard to say, but there's a tag, and we'll put that on our work. And then I've got, I've noticed too that you can use a hole punch and punch right through the plastic on those deep pots, and then you can affix a tag to that. That's my little trick.
I wanted to ask you guys,
Yeah.
what is the easiest of those three splices? I keep calling them splices.
Grafts.
Grafts.
I would say like the easiest is probably the Splice Graft, because it's the fewest cuts, but you have to get your alignment really perfect, and holding that one in place while you do the rubber band is maybe the most challenging.
The last one looked like the slickest one.
Yeah, but that requires more cuts, and you have to match two cuts kind of perfectly, which is a little tricky, especially at that size. So I kind of, you saw what I did initially with that bark flap graft.
Yep.
That was like, that's my like shift to this one when I have trouble doing the other two. because you can, like, it doesn't have to be a perfect diameter match, and you can switch gears to that one if you get in trouble trying to do the other ones. So that's basically what happened. But I would say Splice Graft is like, that's where I started and got pretty, once you get confident with that one, you can build your skills, I'd say. But the trickiest part almost is that rubber band. I tell you what, that gave me the most trouble, is preserving that alignment and wrapping. You have to have a pretty delicate hand. You can't touch the scion, and because you'll knock it one way or the other.
My hands will start shaking.
I was pretty nervous the first few times I did it, because you know, you feel like you have a life in your hands.
Just because you tremble as you age.
Yeah. Well, I'm going to keep doing it while I can. I know Larry Sibley's still probably grafting a few at what, 85?
I think so.
That guy amazes me.
Yeah.
But yeah, so that's basically what I know, and we'll do a few branches over at your place.
Okay.
So which one would you use? Which graft, John?
I like just the straight splice one, the 2 angle cuts.
Yeah.
That's the hard one to wrap it. I think you got more surface area.
I think the Whip and Tongue may provide more because of, like, it kind of that zigzag
They add
cut,
a little more.
and it does have some stability. And you can go from splice to Whip and Tongue. It's like cutting out a step, basically, I guess, or adding a step if you want to go from one to the next. So
Because the first move is a splice.
right.
Okay.
I tried drilling a hole in the peach tree, and then finding a branch that's that size, and stripping the bark off, and put that in there, and put wax, warm wax, not hot, not too hot, and no success.
Man,
But it was this time of year. It was earlier.
that might have been it, because you want to, like,
I was thinking the saps, as soon as the saps gone, would be the optimum time to get it, but it's actually when you wait a little longer, and that's what's going on. The light's coming up out of the ground.
Yeah, now as far as like up here in northern Illinois, timing is, I don't know where the window ends, but I know Cliff England, who's down in Kentucky, is grafting like into early June or so. So maybe even later. And I've heard of like other grafts that people do in the fall. I don't know about that stuff, but like I think waiting until things are at an active growing time, when the temperatures are nice and warm, but not too hot, not too cool still, because I don't think there's a lot going on when in the 60s, you know, there's not a lot of growth going on, and even if there's a lot of sunlight or whatever. But I don't know. I think the timing, from the look of the bark peel, that it didn't, when I did the Modified Bark Flap Graft, the flap didn't split when I peeled it down, which is kind of a good sign.
So it's still
It's slipping.
What word am I looking for?
Pliable.
Pliable.
Yeah. And it just came right off. I didn't have to like do much to get it to peel away, which is nice. And I think that's the time, sort of. And I don't know when that kind of stops. So
Just keep
temperatures in
learning.
the 80s, bark slipping, those are good signs. Just try to keep your tools clean and make clean cuts, and don't put your scion wood in the dirt. Put it in your mouth. And you can see I used a hole punch there, just a regular, you know, metal hole punch to affix the tag to the container. And then if you look close here, I'll use my shirt as a background there, but can you see the grafting scar?
Oh, yeah.
So this one was just a splice graft, and you can see.
Oh, I can see that one plain as day.
Yeah. So this is the first year that it's healed in. You can see there's some scar tissue in there, but it seems like it's hanging on there.
So if anything should sprout below that, I'd want to pop that off, huh?
Not a bad idea. Yeah. But I mean, as it matures, it should be fine, and like it should be good seed stock. So if something does happen to the graft, God forbid, whatever, you know, things happen, it should be an okay tree. I mean, no guarantees in life, like I said, especially with pawpaws, but you know.
Do you want to save your tag?
You should keep it.
Keep it with it.
Okay. I'll see. You'll get your container back.
Oh, that'd be great. I do appreciate that.
Yeah.
a tomato cage with it for now, if I can reach it.
The John Maxon tree looks so naked.
I know it feels very brutal to do this to them, but you know, I think it will survive. And honestly, there will probably be some growth that returns below the graft. In fact, I just noticed I missed one leaf bud there. But, you know, not a big deal to me. I'm more concerned just about getting a genetic copy of that scion and being able to have a source for it. I should add, here's another tree that we grafted last year. This tree started as a root sucker from, I think, this tree, which has been stressed with cat scratch fever and hacked back a bit. We're going to try a bark, or rather a stump graft on this one. That's maybe a different video, maybe not, we'll see. So I moved this sucker and then grafted it, and this is all Tollgate scion here. I'm going to leave the cage on, but if you can zoom in, you can see the scar there.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, you're all the way zoomed in. Okay, so that scar there, but then I also did the side branches here, and you can see a scar there, maybe, and a scar here. Again, with sort of that intent of, if the top didn't take, I would, and the side branches did, I would cut the top off or what have you. But for now, I'm maintaining these side branches, but we'll probably harvest this, which is Tollgate scion, next spring. We're at John's home in his backyard, and he's got this wonderfully large pawpaw tree here. And it looks like it's had some splits. It looks like there might be some kind of like narrow crotches on this tree, so it might be prone to it. But he also said it had a huge fruit load, so that
You can see the scar from this one.
yeah. So on the back side is where the branch came off.
It was, I'm going to say, about 1/3 of the tree.
Wow.
The tree has pretty nice shape, but some of these branches that have those narrow crotch angles, I'm a little nervous for, especially these lower ones, that they might do kind of the same thing. Because Patty's tree split similarly, but you see how there's this like deep groove here?
Yeah.
This is a narrow crotch, and like water will get into here and start
Freeze
to rot
and
this
thaw.
away, and yeah, exactly, and this will be weak eventually. And then, you know, this is a pretty heavy branch that might be laden with a lot of fruit at some point too, so this would be one to just kind of keep an eye on, maybe prop it or whatever if you're going to let it fruit. But like, it could be prone to that similar splitting, any of those ones that are kind of like included like that. So
This one had cracked a long time ago, and I couldn't tell because you
Yeah.
can see this is all healed. That's all healed. That's healed from the.
yeah, they're kind of remarkable how they'll
And then
like,
when
fill in.
when I put it down, I did this.
Yeah.
That wouldn't do it much good either, but it's starting to heal. It's starting to come from both sides.
That happened last year?
Year before.
I've had some that have healed up surprisingly well, so you never know. I mean, they say 20 years is old for a pawpaw, but some of these seem to be hanging on, I would say, significantly longer than that.
I'd say if from the ones you've seen on 6th Street, I think they must be really old.
I suspect those are about 40 or more years old. This one, you said you didn't recall when you planted it, but
No.
it probably would have been in the 2000s, I'm guessing, before 2010 at least.
At least.
Yeah, okay.
I have a friend who moved that year. He could tell me because he helped
Okay.
me. He was
All right.
living here.
There you go. Okay. So I'd be curious to know how old this is. But so this tree has put out a small sucker that John has left, and I think we're going to try to graft it with this. So then this will be like a pollinator, and it's sort of right now in the shade of this peach tree, but John said this peach tree is not long for this world, so I think we're good to go here. What I would recommend, I'm going to just tear out all this grass that's long around here so we can see what we're looking at, but also I think these would benefit greatly from mulching. to retain soil moisture. So, you know, just some wood chips around this or whatever to kill the grassroot competition and keep the soil moisture in. They always recommend that with pawpaws, and some people use like landscape fabric and stuff like that to like do row plantings.
You can see where I just spray Roundup around glyphosate around this.
Okay. Well, I think that'll kill competition, but also like really retain that soil moisture, and then you won't worry about overspray with Roundup or anything.
I think I got a bucket in the garage of cocoa husks or something like that.
And my neighbor who's got that firewood business is always trying to get rid of wood chip mulch. So if you ever need any mulch, just let Jeremy know. He'd be
I haven't
grateful.
had good luck with wood chips.
Yeah?
I worked for a tree cutter. It was kind of handy because if I went to the union hall and there was no union work going, he'd just say to call his house and his wife would know where they were cutting the trees, and he'd just put me on the payroll as soon as I got there.
That's nice.
Okay, so I've got scion wood in here. I tossed it in here to keep it cool with a beer. Let's see what we got. Just go with this guy, I guess.
Want the beer in the refrigerator?
No, that's all right. I might just have it here in a minute. We'll see.
If it's a
Or when we
success.
get home, yeah, exactly. There we go.
You want those in the refrigerator?
Yeah, why not? Why not? Of course, I'll probably screw this one up and I'll have to have you go get it. But for now, yeah, that'd be good. Keep it cool.
It's not far to go.
Yep. Okay, so we're gonna do. What are we gonna do? I can't remember what. I think I demonstrated all the grafts already, so we're just gonna figure it out here.
Choose the
your own
best
adventure.
for this situation.
Yeah.
That is a cute little tree.
It is, and now we're gonna brutally murder it here. No, not murder it, just strip it down a bit.
Wait till. Okay.
Wait till
It's
John's gone.
stripping your tree, John.
Okay, so that's all that. We'll make our.
Want to wait for him to get back?
Oh, sure.
Okay. So. Pretty cool how many pawpaws.
Yeah.
The hidden pawpaws of Sycamore.
Yeah. The hidden pawpaws of Sycamore. Maybe that'll be the
Yeah.
title of this video.
Okay.
So.
Look what he's done already. He
Yeah,
stripped
I got
your
rid
tree.
of all the leaves here, but see what luck we have. I'm gonna go with these 3 here and then try to make the cut there. Maybe a little wider.
You going for the splice?
Well, that's where it all starts, right? So, well, let's see here. I'm just gonna go for oops, shoot. All right, let's
I
try that
remember
again.
years ago, I think I called Sue and asked her if she wanted suckers, and you said you didn't have good luck with them, or maybe it's changed.
It's a lot of work.
I think transplanting the suckers is the issue. If you got them in your own yard, they like it there. They've already got a root system.
Yeah, the one that I moved was mostly just out of the fact that I had it growing in the fence, and I knew it was probably just going to get well, if it got any bigger, it's just going to cause problems for the plant trying to grow in the fence. So I thought, and I don't know, it seems like a decent size. Geez, I'm messing this up, but
Pudding cup.
pudding cup, yep. Ah, goodness. That looks pretty good.
Mm-hmm.
I'm gonna try to even it though. All right. How's that look? That's a pretty nice match, I'd say. Not perfect, but not bad. We're in full sun, so I'm just going to try to get this done here, I think, with a splice graft. And if it doesn't take, I'll make an adjusting cut. But the longer this stays open in the sun, and I'm going to put my back to you, but it's because of the handedness of the cut, let's say, because I got to have my left nail here.
Okay.
So if it was the other way, I'd be on the other side. So I kind of position my scion. Try to make sure the cut lines up. In fact, I'm going to check the bottom of the cut too. The matchup is, I think it needs to be a little longer on this end. It's cutting really nicely, which is a good sign about our timing.
John, you'd mentioned the phloem earlier. What's phloem?
Phloem is I think it's the tissue that the water comes up and down the tree with. And xylem is the nutrition.
Okay.
Like, like blood work, like your blood, as you might think.
Okay. Decent enough. Checking that alignment. Sliding that kind of into place. Oops. It's wet and it wants to slip a little bit. You know what? I'm gonna go with the whip and tongue, just for practice, but also because why not? Give it a little stability. So I think before I said like this. Steady as she goes, into the wood, not your fingertip.
Someday maybe you will graft yourself onto a pawpaw tree.
You can only graft pawpaw onto pawpaw. So
Grandpa?
once I'm a grandpa, yeah. Okay, so I think I cut that on oddly the wrong side, but that's okay.
It's a very tense moment with your baby tree.
Can you see? Try to slide that in there. That looks pretty good. Alignment wise. And it's holding it on there.
Nice.
So just get a fresh rubber band here. I'm going to start even below here and then wrap around and then just keep wrapping. Now I'm watching the back just to kind of make sure that the scion doesn't move much and it stays aligned with the matching cut. Seems good. got, try not to stress it out here, but I've got a slightly short end piece, but it got under there, and you can kind of roll it down if it doesn't quite grab it. There it is. Came through. Good enough, it's on there. And now we wrap it with this stuff. The parafilm. Try not to twist or flex it too much, but I did a bit, but I think we'll be okay. Everything seems pretty sealed in there. I'm going to call that good. Whether or not it takes, we'll find out, but it looked pretty good to me going on. There's ones that you just kind of know, you're like, I don't know about this one, but we're doing our best. And I'd say this, I didn't feel questionable during this. Well, a little bit, I guess, when I switched to the different style of graft, but like I said, start with splice, and you can always kind of work up to the other grafts from there. Bye-bye. Thanks for tuning in. I think I may have some more grafting videos to come. Right now, we're having a couple of cool days here in DeKalb. I rewatched Cliff England's Modified Bark Flap Graft video, and my method doesn't quite do his method justice, although it is essentially the same idea. I did want to show you these other hidden pawpaw trees of Sycamore, Illinois, here in the back parking lot of Bloomin' Gardens. See you next time.